Lyra, do you have any idea what you're doing? Rhys remained perfectly still, his voice a low, husky rasp, incredibly sensual. His warm breath brushed against her face, and she instantly felt feverish, her cheeks burning like fire. Finding a sudden surge of courage, Lyra wrapped her arms tightly around his waist. Rhys's body pressed down against hers. Are you sure you want to fulfill your wife's duties right now? It was 10 o'clock in the evening, and Rhys was still in his study. Lyra lingered on the sofa for a long time, fidgeting before finally tiptoeing to the study door. She tapped twice tentatively. Come in. Rhys's voice, deep and alluring, her favorite sound in the world, drifted from inside. Lyra took a deep, shaky breath, trying to steady herself, then slowly opened the door and stepped inside. Her body felt stiff, her movements awkward. She fumbled over her words for a long moment, unable to form a complete sentence. Rhys put down his fountain pen, looked up, his gaze deep and steady, a hint of gentle amusement playing on his lips. Something wrong? Well, are you finished working? Lyra stammered, meeting his slightly confused eyes. She squeezed her eyes shut, hardened her resolve, and just blurted it out. Can you sleep with me tonight? Clatter. The fountain pen Rhys had just picked up fell back onto the desk. He stared at Lyra, utterly taken aback, speechless for a moment. Lyra waited, receiving no immediate response. She opened her eyes, meeting his now even deeper, darker gaze, and shivered. Can you temporarily sleep with me tonight? No, stay with me. No, let's sleep together. Can we just sleep in the same room? She stumbled over her explanation, wanting to kick herself for her awkward phrasing. She slapped her forehead in frustration, finally managing to clarify, albeit sheepishly. My parents are coming tonight. I'm worried they'll get ideas if they find out we're sleeping in separate rooms. So, don't worry, I won't lay a finger on you. I promise I won't take advantage. Lyra was flushed scarlet from head to toe, her delicate features so red they looked ready to bleed. She wanted to run away, but she'd finally mustered the courage to say it. Leaving now felt like a waste. She lowered her head slightly, sneaking a peek at Rhys, and saw that he had risen and was walking towards her. Your parents are coming tonight? You didn't mention it. What time do they arrive? Do you need me to pick them up? His rapid-fire questions made Lyra blush even harder, but her heart warmed. Seeing Rhys already reaching for his jacket on the sofa, she quickly said, No need. They arrived at the airport at 9 and took a taxi. They should be here by 10:30. Rhys glanced down at his wrist, checking his watch. 10 past 10. His brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. Lyra, ever observant, noticed his slight frown and quickly raised her hand in a pledge. I swear I didn't know beforehand. They only told me after they landed. I wasn't trying to hide it from you. I was just afraid you wouldn't agree to sleep with me. I was afraid you wouldn't want to be in the same room, so she had been agonizing over it, from 9 o'clock until 10, spending a full hour racking her brain for every possible reason Rhys might refuse. And then, all right, he said, a soft smile returning to his face. We'll sleep together. Lyra and Rhys met on a blind date. It was in a charming Cantonese restaurant, tucked away in a corner by the floor-to-ceiling windows. Lyra was starving, her stomach growling. She'd stayed up late the night before binge-watching dramas, finally falling asleep at 3 a.m. Her mother had dragged her out of bed at 9 a.m., and by 10 a.m. she was ready, bundled out of the house by her mother without even a bite to eat. If this one doesn't work out, your aunt's cousin's niece's nephew's son is going to be your future husband. Lyra had been blasted out the door by her mother's roar. She felt powerless to resist. To prevent her mother from randomly pairing her off with distant relatives, she was determined to make this date work. Of course, she had to see the person first. This was, in fact, Lyra's 20th blind date. She was exactly 30 years old this year. By age standards, 20 dates wasn't an excessive number, but it was certainly memorable. 20 blind dates had officially turned her into a certified leftover woman. Her mother had practically drilled holes in her head with constant nagging, as if being unmarried at 30 was a major crime. This date her aunt had arranged. The other party hadn't provided a photo. Lyra told her mother he must be too ugly and refused to go, which earned her another yelling session. "You're 30 and still picky? What's wrong with ugly? Can you eat a face? He's a university professor. You look for character in a partner, only superficial people look at faces." Lyra wisely shut her mouth, watching her mother's animated face. She really wanted to remind her that back when her mother was dating, she was quite superficial herself. Photos nowadays are all filtered, Cece. When you meet him, look at the face first. First, he must be handsome. You have to find someone pleasing to the eye. You'll be looking at him for a lifetime. Good looks are also a responsibility to the next generation. So a man's face is definitely the first test. Hear that? That's what her mother said years ago. Women are truly fickle. Their words full of contradictions. Lyra arrived at the appointed restaurant half an hour early and promptly fell asleep slumped over the table. When she woke up, a full hour had passed, and the person across from her still hadn't shown up. She was desperately hungry, so she ordered a plate of brown sugar glutinous rice cakes. She'd only had 2 bites when her blind date finally arrived. Lyra's first impression of Rhys could be summed up in one phrase: refreshing like a spring breeze. Her overall feelings towards him could be described in 3 phrases: utterly smitten, practically buzzing with excitement, and absolutely must acquire. Finally, heaven had opened its eyes. This man was exactly her type. "I apologize, something came up unexpectedly, and I'm late." Rhys sat across from her, offering a polite nod of apology. Every movement exuded gentle elegance. Lyra's eyes lit up. The torrent of complaints and sarcastic remarks she had been brewing instantly evaporated. She quickly put down her chopsticks, grabbed 2 tissues to wipe her mouth and sat up straight. "No worries, I just arrived too." Rhys glanced at the almost empty plate in front of her, smiling subtly. He motioned for the waiter, handed the menu to her. Lyra, now perfectly embodying an elegant lady, demurred. "I'm easygoing, I eat anything. You order." She passed the menu back to him, simultaneously pushing the telltale rice cake plate aside. Beaming at him, Rhys looked at her, hesitated for a moment, then began to look at the menu. "Can you eat spicy food?" he asked, glancing at the menu. "Do you eat it?" Lyra countered, watching him. "Love spicy food." "Me too. Absolutely love it." "Any dietary restrictions?" "Do you?" "None." "Neither do I." After asking a few questions, Rhys handed the menu to the waiter. He looked up and saw Lyra staring at him, utterly captivated. His eyes flickered with amusement, and he cleared his throat, covering his mouth with his hand. Lyra quickly masked her starry-eyed expression, and they began a conversation, picking up where they left off. Lyra was a painter, and Rhys was a university professor of architecture. Their professions were different, but they found plenty to talk about. Driven by her determination to land him, Lyra discovered conversational talents she never knew she possessed. She'd been on blind dates for years, but this was the first time she felt she could genuinely chat without awkward silences. Then, 20 minutes later, disaster struck. The chili had left her face burning red, her throat dry, her eyes streaming. The spicy boiled fish made her feel hot and uncomfortable all over. She had been so focused on Rhys's handsome face, so set on getting him, that she hadn't paid attention to what she was saying or what she was eating. The embarrassment was excruciating. Rhys drove her to the hospital. Even lying on the hospital bed, Lyra didn't lose her boldness. She reached out and grabbed his arm. "If I get disfigured, will you be responsible?" Rhys looked at her with genuine concern and nodded. Lyra grinned, immediately climbing off the bed, pulling Rhys towards the door. "Then I don't need to be checked out. I'm disfigured now, you're responsible." Lyra considered herself a slow, turtle-like person, prone to procrastination, lazy and habitually late. As her mother would say, she needed a whip cracking behind her to get moving. She never expected that seeing Rhys would shatter all her composure, driving her to use coercion and veiled threats to make the blind date a success. Lyra thought that if she had to do it again, she wouldn't have the courage. Rhys was quiet as he drove her home. Lyra was a bundle of nerves the whole way. In fact, the moment they left the hospital, her bravery evaporated. She didn't even notice the medicine the doctor prescribed slipping from her hand and falling to the ground. As soon as the car stopped, she bolted out. Rhys called after her. Hesitant, half fearful, half hopeful, she turned back, only to find he was holding out the dropped medicine for her. Back home, her mother asked how it went. Lyra just pointed at her red, puffy face. Her mother applied medicine, scolding her the whole time. You even ruined your face just by having dinner. How useless can you be? Back in my day, before your father and I started dating, the men lining up to court me stretched from the village head to the village end. Your mother was a belle in Fanyang village. My track record with men was very impressive. How come you have absolutely no luck in love? Rhys didn't contact her. Lyra waited for 3 days, slowly losing hope. Clearly, he had given her his answer. She spent 2 days moping, then started hanging out with her fox friends, eating and drinking excessively, which earned her plenty of scolding from her mother when she got home. On the 4th day, Lyra told her parents she'd been invited to participate in an important art exhibition in Paris. Her mother eyed her suspiciously, asking if she was trying to escape blind dates. Lyra waved her hand grandly. It's a really important exhibition, Mom. Missing it would be a lifelong regret. Can you bear to let me live with a lifelong regret? All right, she was mostly planning a vacation to relax and avoid her mother's constant nagging about dating. In the end, her father intervened, pulling her mother aside. Men are important, but so is a career. Who knows, our daughter might even have a romantic encounter there. Bring back a foreign son-in-law. Wouldn't that be impressive back home? Her mother snorted but tied the scarf she just knitted around Lyra's neck. Who wants a foreign son-in-law? I just want a handsome Chinese guy. Then she glared at Lyra. If you bring back a foreign son-in-law, I'll break your legs. Lyra broke out in a sweat. She picked up her luggage and started towards the door. She'd only taken 2 steps when her mother's phone rang. The man agreed. Who? What goo? Goo what? Rhys Sterling? Who's Rhys Sterling? The one from last time. Oh, what? Get married quickly? No way. He didn't even give a picture. Cece almost got disfigured last time. We don't agree. You tell him Before her mother could finish, Lyra snatched the phone. Agree. I agreed to marry him. 2 minutes later, Lyra hung up the phone. Her mother, twisting Lyra's ear, was spitting curses, lecturing her before pushing her out the door. Aren't you supposed to go to the exhibition? Your plane will be late. Go quickly. Don't come back for 2 months. Lyra dropped her luggage, pulled off her hat, yanked off the scarf, and grinned so wide her mouth reached her ears. I'm not going. I'm getting married. Then her mother gave her a beating. If her father hadn't intervened, Lyra's ear would have been twisted off. Her mother absolutely forbade the marriage, even calling the aunt to scold her. Lyra, fearing the whole thing would fall through, desperately tried to interfere and make noise from the side. Finally, worn down by Lyra's insistence, the 2 families met. Lyra's mother went in with a black face and came out grinning ear to ear. Grinning ear to ear was Lyra's description, because her mother's mouth was literally smiling up to her ears. Oh, in-laws. It's truly a pity we didn't meet sooner. How could you raise such an outstanding son? This boy Rhys, I truly adore him. Lyra's aunt pulled Lyra aside, walking behind them, and started complaining wildly. Her aunt said Lyra's mother had come to her house the day before and smashed a pot, yelling curses, blaming her for the botched matchmaking. Today, she'd done a complete 180, doted on her future son-in-law, and completely forgotten the matchmaker. Lyra chuckled, joining in the complaining about her mother. In truth, when she first heard her aunt was setting her up on a blind date, she had felt like smashing a pot too. But she didn't have the nerve. After the families met, Lyra and Rhys got their marriage certificate in just a month. Rhys's grandmother, before passing away, had wished to see her grandson married. To fulfill the elderly woman's wish, the Sterling family hoped for an early wedding. Lyra had no objections. She was very happy with the marriage. Though she was puzzled by Rhys's earlier hesitation, she never asked. After all, despite being married, they were practically strangers. Getting the certificate, holding the banquet, moving into the marital home. Everything happened at lightning speed, taking just over 2 months total. It was a whirlwind marriage. While Lyra had been smitten with Rhys at first sight, living with a man for the first time made her incredibly self-conscious. Thankfully, Rhys was a very gentle, incredibly secure gentleman. After moving in, he naturally took the guest room. He was orderly, meticulous, capable both in and out of the house, an excellent cook, handsome, spoke gently, and had a lovely voice. Lyra felt like she would wake up smiling from her dreams. After they got married, her best friend, Finn, demanded a celebratory dinner. First, to congratulate her on finally getting married, then to complain about her secretive ways. Finally, he started probing about her and Rhys's bedroom life. Lyra slapped him on the table and kicked him a couple of times, but his questions made her realize something crucial. Right. She was married and to a man she was incredibly, almost unbelievably happy with. But they still hadn't consummated the marriage. Rhys was very busy. Lyra didn't know what he did all day in his study, but she knew he was occupied. She didn't want to disturb him, and he showed absolutely no inclination to share a room. Lyra intended to build a real life with Rhys. While their current arrangement was comfortable, it couldn't stay so platonic forever. For days, she'd been trying to figure out a way to break through their show respect-like guest dynamic and move to the next level. But she hadn't come up with a plan when opportunity presented itself. Her parents visiting was a surprise. Her mother, that lovable character, loved surprise inspections. If her mother found out she and Rhys had been sleeping in separate rooms, her ears would be forfeit. After all, she had been the one insisting on getting married. On their wedding day, her mother had constantly lectured her, reminding her she was 30, borderline advanced maternal age, and needed to have children quickly. Knowing her mother's potential reaction to discovering their sleeping arrangements, her first thought was to ask Rhys for help. While she was forced into it, she was also thrilled. It was a rare chance. She wouldn't have dared ask otherwise. Lyra's parents arrived around 11 o'clock that night. They had eaten dinner outside to avoid being a bother. It was late, and the elderly couple was tired from their day of travel. After settling them into their room, Lyra's mother quickly shooed Lyra and Rhys away to rest. When Lyra had moved in, Rhys had immediately given her the master bedroom. Lyra had transformed the originally muted gray room into a vibrant, girly haven. Noticing Rhys's surprise, Lyra felt a bit awkward, standing by the bed, touching her head, unsure what to say. I thought it was a bit plain before, so I just redecorated it a bit. If you don't like it, I can change it back tomorrow. Rhys shook his head, telling her she was the lady of the house and could decorate anywhere she pleased. Half an hour later, after they had both showered, Lyra lay in bed, watching Rhys set up a makeshift bed on the floor. She wanted to say something but hesitated, torn. Are you going to be cold? It was deep winter, the early spring chill biting enough to freeze your breath outside. While the room was heated, the floor was still cool. No, I'll be fine. Go to sleep now, it's late. Rhys closed his eyes and soon his shallow, even breathing filled the room. Lyra tossed and turned, unable to sleep. She would pull back the covers to peek at him, then reach out to touch herself, feeling her skin. Feel fine. My skin is okay. Why is Rhys so composed? Am I just not attractive to him at all? The thought struck her, wounding her pride deeply. Here they were, a man and a woman alone, and he had absolutely no wicked thoughts? To a woman, that was a devastating blow. The more she thought about it, the more wrong she felt, the more humiliated, and the more her courage flared, pushing her towards irrationality. She suddenly threw off the covers, decisively slid out of bed, feeling her way in the dark, then reached out, took Rhys's arm and lay down in his embrace. In the darkness, Rhys's eyes snapped open, his deep gaze unclear. Lyra's eyes, however, shone like tiny stars. Lyra, do you have any idea what you're doing? Rhys remained still, his voice low, hoarse with suppressed emotion, incredibly sensual. His tempting breath warmed Lyra's face, instantly making her feel like she was burning up, her cheeks blazing. She didn't know where she found the courage, but instead of moving away after Rhys spoke, she wrapped her arms tightly around his waist. She asked him, "Am I your wife?" Rhys hummed an affirmation. Lyra asked, "Are we legally married?" Rhys hummed again. Lyra then asked, her voice a mixture of frustration and urgency. Then why don't you want me? Rhys was silent. Buoyed by her sudden, inexplicable boldness, Lyra pressed on. I'm your wife, we're legally married. No wedding night happened. Now we're in the same room, a man and a woman alone, and you're not interested in me? Finn said there are 4 possibilities in this situation. While Rhys had been making his bed on the floor, Lyra had secretly texted her confidant, Finn, only to be ridiculed by the scoundrel for ages. 1. You have another woman outside. 2. You're not interested in me. 3. You like men. 4. You're incapable. In the darkness, Lyra couldn't see Rhys's face darken, especially after hearing the last possibility. His expression contorted. Who's Finn? He asked, his voice low. Lyra thought she heard anger in his tone but largely ignored it. She was too caught up in her own feelings of injustice. She said he was a friend then. Pressed Rhys again about the real reason. Rhys didn't answer. He simply got up, lifted Lyra, and carried her back to the bed. Lyra was still feeling glum when Rhys's body came down on top of hers. Are you sure you want to fulfill your wife's duties right now? Lyra froze for a second. Then her face flushed bright red. She instinctively shook her head, then shivered and nodded. Finally, sensing Rhys might get up, she quickly reached up, pulled his head down and kissed him. A chance to advance their relationship had finally appeared. The last shred of Lyra's rationality screamed at her to seize it. Otherwise, after her parents left, they would revert back to their respectful distance. She didn't want respect. She wanted to be inseparable and deeply in love. In the increasingly heated air, Rhys pulled away slightly from Lyra. His deep eyes were tinged with red, his brow furrowed, revealing his suppressed emotion and self-restraint. Lyra, he said, his voice tight. I'm asking you one last time. Is this a spur-of-the-moment decision, or are you truly sure? I don't want you to regret it later. Lyra breathed slightly, her eyes hazy and inviting. She simply wrapped her arms around his neck and pulled him closer. Legally married people doing legal things, she whispered. Why would I regret it? Lyra woke up the next day around noon, her body aching all over. She turned over, feeling sore and uncomfortable. Her mother came in and for the first time didn't scold her for sleeping late. Instead, she wore a smug, excited expression. Awake now? Hurry and eat. Mom made you chicken soup and a whole table of your favorite dishes. Lyra pulled the blanket over her head, but her mother yanked it off. Ooh la la, are you shy? What's there to be shy about? It's just man and woman, balancing the yin and yang. You little girl, this is the only good thing about you. Lyra was speechless, her face as red as a tomato. Little girl? Before getting married, she'd called her an old leftover woman every single day. Mom, you're shameless. I'm shameless? You're blaming me? You two were too loud last night, okay? I heard everything clearly through the door. You could at least try to be a bit more discreet. But, well, Mom understands. It's normal for newlyweds to be vigorous. Eleanor. So you were listening in last night. Lyra was fuming, shouting her mother's name in embarrassment. I was just worried about you. I didn't listen carefully, don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Ah, Arthur. Take your wife away. Lyra's parents were visiting relatives and happened to be passing by Lyra's place, so they decided to drop in. Since they had other things to do, they only stayed for 2 days. When they left all the provisions they had brought for Lyra. These deer antlers and ginseng are from your great-aunt. They're very nourishing. Keep them, give some to Rhys when you have time to boost his energy. Don't just focus on pleasure. You need to get started on having children immediately. I need news within 6 months. Your mother has already bragged to everyone. If you let me down, I'll twist your ears off. Lyra's mother lectured her nonstop as she left. Lyra's head was throbbing. After finally seeing them off, she went back to the bedroom and slept. She woke up again around 11 in the morning. Rhys had sent her a message saying he was eating lunch at the university. Lyra was bored at home and planned to grab a quick bite and go paint. As she stepped into the kitchen, a rich aroma hit her. There was a note stuck to a pot. The pot has braised pork trotters. Since you're free at home, take some to the university for Rhys for lunch. It'll help deepen your relationship. Aim for 2 babies at once. The handwriting was her mother's. Lyra's eyes welled up, a lump in her throat. Her mother's braised pork trotters were her absolute favorite. Just last night, she'd complained about not having had them in ages. She never expected there would be a whole pot of them today. So, when her parents said they were going for a walk last night, they were actually buying pork trotters, and when her mother said she couldn't sleep, she was secretly busy in the kitchen. Not wanting to waste her mother's thoughtful gesture, Lyra packed half a pot of pork trotters and happily headed to the university to find Rhys for lunch. She thought it would be a good first visit to his workplace, a chance to share the trotters with his colleagues and build relationships. But then, a comment from one of Rhys's colleagues instantly killed her good mood. Lyra followed directions to find Rhys's office. He was teaching a class and wasn't there. Hearing she was looking for Rhys Sterling, the few people in the office seemed surprised. They asked who she was and what she needed. Lyra had dressed carefully today, looking particularly feminine and charming from head to toe. She smoothed her long chestnut waves and smiled brightly. "I'm his." Ugh, how depressing. Professor Sterling, that cold monster, always has beautiful women looking for him. We're all single. How can there be such a huge difference? Before Lyra could finish, one colleague shook his head, sighing dramatically. The others burst into laughter, but Lyra didn't find it funny at all. All single? What did that mean? Didn't they know Rhys was married? Don't you guys know that Rhys Sterling is already married? Married? How is that possible? You're joking, right? If Professor Sterling was married, there's no way we wouldn't know. That one sentence chilled Lyra's cheerful, enthusiastic heart instantly. The colleagues stared at her as if she were a strange creature. No, not a strange creature. Their weird looks were filled with doubt and mockery. Rhys walked in, surprised to see her. He was about to say something, but Lyra was already standing up, shoving the pot of pork trotters into his arms. "My mom wanted me to bring this for you. If you don't want to eat it, share it or throw it away, whatever you want." She turned and walked out. After a few steps, she turned back. Under Rhys's confused gaze, she grabbed his wrist, quickly scanned his hand back and forth a couple of times, then released him and walked out again. After another couple of steps, she broke into a run, not looking back, even though Rhys called after her. "Huh, Professor Sterling," one colleague murmured, watching Lyra's retreating back. "Why does that girl look a little familiar?" No one answered him. Rhys was already gone, running after Lyra. Lyra ran all the way to the university gate and got a call from Finn. Finn was an editor at a fashion magazine. He was calling Lyra to say their magazine wanted to do an exclusive interview with her, and asked if she had time. Lyra said yes. She spent the entire afternoon at the magazine, busy with the interview. It was 7 p.m. when she finished. Finn offered to take her to dinner, but she refused food, wanting only to drink, muttering curses under her breath. "Damn Rhys Sterling. Am I that embarrassing? We've been married for so long. And his colleagues don't even know he's married. He wears his ring all the time at home, but he doesn't wear it at the university. What does that mean? Does he think I'm a disgrace?" The more Lyra drank, the more she cried, banging the table, feeling increasingly wronged. What the hell? If he didn't want to get married, he shouldn't have agreed in the first place. He makes me do everything. Damn it, I even had to beg him. For the wedding night. Who does he think he is? If I hadn't sworn not to get married before 30, with my looks, I could have had a truckload of rich and powerful guys with just a wave of my hand. What is Rhys Sterling compared to that? Lyra couldn't stop, her curses growing louder, her voice rising, attracting stares from nearby tables. Finn quickly covered her mouth. "My dear girl, quiet down. You're making a scene." Finn had been puzzled since Lyra agreed to the interview. Given her personality, she hated public appearances. In the art world, she was known as the most mysterious, commercially valuable young painter, with work starting at 6 figures. The media desperately wanted to uncover her identity, but she always remained hidden. He had asked her many times before, usually on a whim, and had casually asked that afternoon, never expecting her to agree. While happy, he also felt she wasn't acting normally. She wouldn't tell him why, but now it was clear. It was because of Rhys. Hearing her rant, It was obvious Rhys had somehow made her feel inadequate, leaving her deeply hurt and losing confidence in herself. That's why she had, in a moment of hot-headedness, agreed to the interview. It was clearly her way of trying to reclaim her self-worth. Finn sighed. Well, when you're lucky, even drinking cold water feels like winning the lottery. He had struck gold. Come to think of it, he owed Rhys a thank you. So he decided to add fuel to the fire. He drove Lyra home. Rhys opened the door, saw Lyra limp in Finn's arms, and his face darkened, a flicker of pain in his eyes. Rhys pulled Lyra gently from Finn's embrace into his own, making no move to invite Finn inside. Finn handed Lyra's phone to him. Jojo might seem carefree, but she's actually very sensitive. You called her 100 times this afternoon, but maybe you should think about why she didn't pick up. She went to your university to have lunch with you, and your colleagues don't even know you're married. You weren't even wearing your ring. She thinks you didn't actually want to marry her. Seeing the wary look in Rhys's eyes, Finn leaned against the doorframe, made a delicate gesture with his hand, and threw a suggestive look at Rhys. Don't worry, I'm Jojo's best friend. If I were to steal anyone, it would be you. Lyra woke up the next morning, her head pounding, her throat dry. She opened her eyes, closed them again, then cautiously opened them. Why are you here? When she woke up this morning, Rhys was actually lying beside her. Lyra felt a surge of delight and surprise, but her face was a mask of shock and stiffness. No classes this morning. Lyra's face flushed. That wasn't what she meant. After that night, they hadn't been intimate again. Rhys had been busy with an academic project for the past 2 days. To prevent her parents from suspecting anything, Lyra had told him to work in the bedroom. By the time he finished, Lyra was usually fast asleep, and by the time she woke up in the morning, Rhys was already gone. So seeing him when she woke up this morning was a delightful surprise. Rhys seemed tired. He held her close and drifted back to sleep. When Lyra woke up again, Rhys leaned over and kissed her forehead. He said, Lyra, there's a dinner meeting tonight. Will you come with me? At 6:30 that evening, Lyra went with Rhys to a hot pot restaurant. In a large private room, about a dozen people were seated. Lyra recognized a few faces, Rhys's colleagues. Rhys held Lyra's hand, leading her to the only 2 empty seats. They sat down, his hand still holding hers, their rings dazzling everyone. I got married, Rhys announced, a warm smile in his voice. This is my wife, Lyra. Finn thought Lyra had been walking on air the past few days, her face radiant with happiness, like she'd won the lottery. He asked her what she was so happy about. She said Rhys had taken her to dinner meetings for half a month, introducing her to all his friends. While happy for her, Finn still scoffed. He asked why Rhys had hidden his marital status before and taken off his ring. Clearly, he was a jerk. Lyra kicked him twice, saying Rhys had explained everything. He hadn't said anything because he was afraid it would bother her. She had been puzzled, but over the past 2 weeks, she'd experienced it firsthand. Once news spread that Rhys was married, his colleagues from the university and his outside friends started visiting their home constantly. Lyra was initially happy, but then felt like she was a monkey on display being observed all the time. Everyone wanted them to host a dinner. That wasn't the main issue. The main issue was that Rhys's students actually lined up, asking to treat them to meals, welcoming their teacher's wife. She didn't know if her phone number had been leaked, but the students were adding her on WeChat one after another. Refusing felt rude, given Rhys's reputation. Accepting meant too many contacts, which bothered her. Lyra thought that if she had known it would be this much trouble, she might have chosen to hide the marriage. However, despite the exhaustion, she was also very happy. They were slowly integrating into each other's lives. She really liked most of Rhys's friends except for one, Dr. Anya Sharma, Rhys's colleague, also an associate professor in the architecture department. Highly educated, a strong, imposing woman with an air of superiority. I heard you and Rhys met on a blind date, Miss Jo. With all due respect, you're very pretty, but you aren't a match for Rhys. When rivals meet, sparks fly. Anya had invited Lyra to a coffee shop. The moment they met, Anya stated her purpose directly, the air thick with gunpowder. Lyra smiled. If I'm not a match for him, who is? You? You're in the same office, colleagues for years. If he thought you were suitable, why did he choose me? Anya was clearly angered by her provocation. She took a sip of coffee. Even if he married you, it's not because he loves you. Do you know why he was single for so many years and suddenly decided to get married? Lyra remained silent. This was true, she didn't know. She had often wondered why a man as excellent as Rhys would need to go on blind dates. Girls would flock to him with just a gesture. Just look at Anya herself, practically salivating. Anya said Lyra was pathetic, just a substitute. Lyra asked what she meant. Anya's smile grew more mocking. She said, Lyra, have you ever seen Rhys Sterling's wallet? He has a picture inside, kept for many years. That girl is the one he truly loves. He suddenly got married because he's reached a certain age, he couldn't wait anymore. He married you only because you look a bit like that girl. Lyra returned home to find Rhys talking on the balcony. Lyra sat stunned on the sofa for a long time. It wasn't until Rhys came over and gently stroked her head that she snapped back to reality. What's wrong? Something on your mind? Rhys asked, a worried look on his face. Lyra pursed her lips. She wanted to ask but was afraid of hearing the cruel truth. After agonizing for a while, she bit her lip, looking up at Rhys cautiously. Rhys Sterling, can I see your wallet? Rhys paused, surprised. Lyra quickly explained. New Year's Day is coming up, I want to get you a gift. I noticed your wallet was old last time. And I wanted to see what style you like. Rhys had just returned and hadn't taken off his jacket. He reached into his inner pocket and pulled out his wallet. As he handed it to Lyra, he seemed to suddenly remember something, pausing for a fraction of a second, a flicker of hesitation. That brief pause sent Lyra's heart plummeting. So Anya had been right. His wallet held a secret. In the end, Lyra didn't look at the photo. When he offered the wallet, she lost her nerve and ran off under a false pretense. Finn found her later. She was already dead drunk. He drove her home. Rhys wasn't back yet. Finn watched Lyra sobbing uncontrollably on the sofa, poured her 2 glasses of honey water, then patted her face and gently shook her awake. Jojo, you've always wanted to paint nudes, right? How about it? Let's paint one tonight. Lyra blinked her bleary eyes open, then grabbed a pillow and threw it at him, howling. Pervert. I'm not painting nudes for you. If I paint one, it'll be my husband's. I want to paint Rhys Sterling's nude. I want Rhys Sterling to be my model. Wah, he actually has someone he loves. Why did he marry me then, you jerk? Men are all jerks. She cried, full of resentment and self-pity. Finn steered her into the studio, patting her head, his voice full of calculation. Honey, painting others isn't as good as painting yourself. You've always wanted to do artistic nudes, right? Look in the mirror. Be your own model. Finn closed the door behind her from the outside, then used Lyra's phone, which she'd left on the sofa, to send a message to Rhys. Hubby, I'm in the studio. Emergency. Come home quickly. Lyra usually painted landscapes, but she had always wanted to paint nudes. However, she had the desire but lacked the courage, and had no one to model for her. Egged on by Finn and fueled by alcohol, she had a sudden impulse. She stripped off her clothes and stood in front of the mirror, modeling for herself. Then, Rhys rushed home, heading straight for the second-floor studio. Fearing something was wrong with her, he opened the door immediately. And then a scene of vibrant, sensuous chaos unfolded before him. Lyra woke up the next morning, aching and uncomfortable all over. She was staring glumly at the ceiling when Rhys opened the door and handed her phone to her. Lyra's eyes glazed over and she numbly took the phone. Haha, darling, wasn't that move brilliant? Even if Rhys didn't love you, he'd still be hungry for your body. So your hesitant methods wouldn't work, you needed a drastic measure. No need to thank me. There's no marital problem that can't be solved in bed. If you really want to thank me, come to the magazine office tomorrow. Finn. You old bastard. Thank you and your whole family. Lyra threw the phone down, her lips trembling with anger. She turned her head and met Rhys's eyes, which were filled with a knowing, amused gaze. Her face flushed, and she quickly pulled the blanket tighter around herself. Last night did I didn't do anything to you, did I? Lyra wanted to slap herself after saying that. The aches in her body were clear evidence that she had been thoroughly consumed. Yet she couldn't blame him because Finn's call reminded her. Last night, she had been painting her own nude in the studio. Then Rhys came in and then, regardless of who initiated what, it was her who had been provocatively dressed. Even if it wasn't intentional, she was the one who was practically naked. Her face was bright red with embarrassment. Rhys sighed softly, lifted the blanket, and lay down beside her. He reached out and pulled Lyra into his arms. Lyra stiffened, afraid to move. Then Rhys handed her his wallet. Lyra, open the wallet. Lyra froze, hesitant to take it. Seeing her reluctance, Rhys opened the wallet himself. And then Lyra saw the photo Anya Sharma had mentioned. A group photo. 2 people standing side by side, capturing a moment of serene beauty. Indeed, just as Anya had said, there was a photo of Rhys and a girl in his wallet. Lyra and the girl in the photo looked very much alike. No, not just very alike. They looked exactly alike. Because the girl in the photo was her. When did we take a picture together? I didn't know you before. Lyra stammered, overwhelmed by excitement and disbelief. Thinking she must be mistaken, she looked at the photo again and again. Rhys gently kissed her forehead. He said, "You were radiant back then, shining brightly. Naturally, you wouldn't remember me." Lyra asked him what he meant. Rhys just smiled, lifting her chin, his gaze serious and focused. He instructed her gently. He said, "Lyra, in a marriage, communication is the most important thing. If you have any questions, you can ask me directly. If you're unhappy but hold it in, it will only create more problems." Lyra, her eyes misty, poked his chest with her finger. She asked if she could really ask him anything. Rhys captured her hand, smiling, and nodded. Lyra asked him about his relationship with Anya Sharma, and why Anya knew about the photo in his wallet. Rhys said only 2 male colleagues in the office had seen the photo by chance. Anya had never seen it, she must have heard about it. Lyra asked him why he waited several days to agree after their blind date, why he didn't respond immediately. Rhys said he was worried she had made a hasty decision. Also, his grandmother's condition had worsened those few days and he was preoccupied. So, he gave her 3 days to consider. Lyra asked him why they hadn't consummated the marriage on their wedding night. Rhys said it was because he didn't want to force her. He wanted to wait until she fell in love with him, or until she was ready. Lyra asked him when he started liking her. He said, "From the moment I put your picture in my wallet." Lyra flipped over and tackled him onto his back, pinching his cheeks, smiling radiantly. She asked him if there was anything else he was hiding from her. Rhys said there was. Lyra asked him what it was. He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulled her down and whispered in her ear, his breath warm against her skin. He said, "Your mother-in-law calls me every day, harassing me, asking when we're going to give them a baby to play with." After the Lunar New Year, on the 15th day of the first month, Lyra found out she was pregnant. Both sets of parents were overjoyed, constantly visiting their home, giving her endless advice on what to eat, what not to eat, what to do, and what not to do. Lyra felt like her ears had grown calluses. Since getting pregnant, she had been placed under house arrest by both families. Thankfully, she was already used to staying home to paint. Thankfully, Rhys made more time to spend with her. When Finn came to visit, Lyra was lying with her head on Rhys's lap, and Rhys was cleaning her ears. They were curled up on the sofa, bathed in warm sunshine, a picture of peaceful domesticity. Finn handed her a magazine, saying their publication had helped increase her fame even more. He shamelessly demanded to stay for dinner. "Jojo, your award-winning piece from last month, you have to save the exclusive interview for us. No time like the present, I brought my equipment. Darling, my future career depends on you." Lyra smiled at him, not saying anything. With her big belly, she let Rhys help her sit up. Then she told Finn, "All right, the sunshine is nice outside, let's go out there." Rhys looked at her dotingly, smiling without a word. Finn was thrilled, pulling out his camera and voice recorder, trotting along. Behind them, Lyra walked slowly. Finn was ahead. As they reached the door, Lyra swung her leg and kicked Finn in the backside. "Off you go." Slam. She slammed the door shut firmly. She held grudges. Rhys met Lyra when she was 20 and he was 22. Back then, Lyra was already incredibly radiant. She was a student at the Academy of Fine Arts, dazzling with both her beauty and her talent. She visited his university by invitation to participate in an art exhibition. When Rhys first saw her, he felt an immediate connection. It was love at first sight, a sudden powerful jolt to his heart. He was part of the student council responsible for receiving them. At that time, he was incredibly self-conscious, lacking the courage to approach her and talk. He could only watch from afar as she was surrounded, the center of everyone's adoration. Later, during a group photo, he found a chance to stand next to her. After getting the picture, he carefully cut out everyone else, leaving only himself and her, and put it in his wallet. Over the years, his wallet changed, but that photo never left. To catch up to her, he worked tirelessly to become better. But by the time he was capable and brave enough to go find her at the academy, she had become an even more accomplished version of herself. She was now a painter, mysterious and still the center of attention. He thought they would never cross paths again, until his mother gave him a picture. "Rhys, this is the last time. Just this once as a favor to your mother. This is someone a friend of mine introduced, her niece. She's a painter, very good looking. If you don't like this one, your mother will never pressure you into blind dates again." A painter? He had a good feeling about the word. So he looked at the picture and his heart soared. He had previously thought she might be married and had felt disappointed. Even though he knew she wouldn't remember him, he was still afraid that if she saw the photo, she might recall the younger, insecure version of him. So he didn't provide the photo. On the day of the blind date, he had actually arrived very early, half an hour before her. But he was too nervous, so he sat nearby. When she arrived, he watched her trying to calm himself. Then she fell asleep, slumped over the table. She seemed very tired, so he didn't disturb her. He watched her order the brown sugar glutinous rice cakes, watched her grow impatient. He forced himself to compose himself before he finally dared to walk over. When she had the allergic reaction, his heart ached for her. When she boldly told him he was responsible, he was ecstatic, eager to agree. But he was afraid it was an impulsive decision, especially since his mother mentioned she had already been on 20 blind dates. He feared she was acting recklessly, so he gave her 3 days to think. As soon as his grandmother's condition improved slightly, he immediately had his mother call. Thankfully, it wasn't too late. From the innocent awkwardness of their youth to the steady depth carved by time, his moonbeam, the guiding light in his heart, had always been Lyra.